The old man stood alone, a weathered silhouette against the roar of the air show, his cane trembling under gnarled hands. Dust swirled across the tarmac, catching the glint of a faded flight jacket that clung to his frail frame like a second skin. Around him, the crowd pulsed with life. Children in plastic pilot hats, veterans with proud unit caps, teenagers scrolling phones with restless thumbs. They barely noticed him, this quiet figure in an A-10 Thunderbolt II cap, his eyes fixed on the runway where the Warthog's shadow loomed. Then came the snicker, sharp as a blade. "Bet he just cleaned the planes," a teenager sneered, loud enough for the old man to hear. His face, etched like cracked earth, didn't flinch. He only tightened his grip on a worn notebook, its pages whispering secrets of a life forgotten. This is a story of a threadbare jacket, a symbol of sacrifice, stitched with courage, overlooked by those who never knew its weight. At the Thunder Over America Air Show, 50,000 souls gathered under a blazing sun, their cheers rising for the A-10's thunderous growl. Yet among them, Colonel Samuel "Iron" Grayson, a name lost to time, shuffled forward, unseen. His knees ached from a long-ago ejection over a desert sky, his shoulders scarred by shrapnel the titanium bathtub couldn't shield. The jacket, once olive green, now faded to dust, bore patches too worn to read. But each stitch held a story of valor. To the teenagers, he was just Gramps, a relic to mock. To the little girl who glimpsed his sketches, he was a mystery. To the Warthog screaming overhead, he was a creator. Empathy stirs for this man, dismissed as frail, his silence louder than the crowd's jeers. The air show's electric hum, jet fuel sharp in the air, the ground trembling under the A-10's roar, frames a scene of anticipation. But the true pulse lies in Grayson's stillness, his eyes tracking the aircraft with a precision that betrays his past. Who is this man, clutching a notebook of intricate drawings, standing firm against the weight of disrespect? Why does he endure the taunts without a word? The jacket, frayed yet proud, threads this tale together, a quiet promise that truth will unravel. As the A-10 banks sharply, breaking formation in a move that silences the crowd, curiosity ignites. Something extraordinary is about to unfold, and the old man at the heart of it holds the key to a legacy that will shake the airfield awake. The Thunder Over America Air Show crackled with life, a mosaic of sunburned faces and restless energy under a relentless summer sun. The tarmac shimmered, heat rising in waves that blurred the horizon where the A-10 Thunderbolt II waited, its blunt nose a promise of raw power. Children clutched plastic wings, veterans swapped stories under faded caps, and teenagers lounged against barriers, their laughter sharp as shrapnel. Colonel Samuel "Iron" Grayson moved through this sea, each step a battle against creaking knees and a back that still whispered of a fiery ejection over Kuwait decades ago. His threadbare jacket, patched with ghosts of missions past, hung loose on his frame, its weight more memory than fabric. He leaned on his cane, the wood worn smooth by years of quiet resolve, and edged toward the front viewing area, drawn by the Warthog's distant growl. "Excuse me," he murmured to a knot of teenagers blocking the barrier, his voice soft as desert wind. "Mind if I stand here for a better view?" The group parted reluctantly, their eyes flicking over his stooped shoulders and faded A-10 cap with dismissive smirks. "Sure, Gramps," one said, his tone dripping with mockery. "What, you polished the jets back in the day?" Another snickered, loud enough to sting. "Probably just hauled the fuel cans." Grayson's eyes, sharp beneath heavy brows, flickered with something, pain perhaps or patience, but he only offered a faint smile and turned to the runway. From his pocket, he drew a notebook, its leather cover cracked, pages crowded with precise sketches of the G8 Avenger cannon, the heart of the A-10. His fingers traced the lines, a ritual as old as the scars beneath his jacket. A young girl nearby, her ponytail bouncing, caught sight of the drawings. Her eyes widened, curiosity sparking like a flare. "Are those planes?" she asked, pointing before her father tugged her back. "Don't bother him, Lily," he whispered, mistaking Grayson's silence for frailty. The colonel's face softened, a fleeting wish to share his world with her bright mind. He'd once spent hours with his own granddaughter, explaining thrust and recoil over milkshakes, her laughter brighter than any metal. But the moment passed, and the crowd's noise swallowed it. The announcer's voice boomed, "Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for the A-10 Thunderbolt II, the tank killer that redefined warfare." Grayson's lips moved silently, reciting specs. 7 barrels, 70 rounds per second. Before the words even left the speakers, the jacket, heavy with unspoken stories, seemed to anchor him as the Warthog roared to life. The A-10 tore into the sky, its ungainly frame defying gravity with a grace that silenced doubters. Grayson stood straighter, cane forgotten. His gaze locked on the aircraft as if it were an extension of his soul. The crowd cheered, but his focus was surgical, noting the pilot's smooth handling against a tricky crosswind. The Warthog wasn't sleek like the F-35s that had dazzled earlier. It was a brute, built to take hits and save lives. Grayson knew its bones. Every rivet, every hydraulic line, because he'd helped forge them. His notebook, clutched tight, held the math that made it fly. Angles for the GU-8 to counter recoil, curves for the titanium bathtub to cradle pilots. The teenagers nearby scrolled their phones, oblivious. "That thing's a dinosaur," one muttered. "Why even bother?" Grayson's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Words wouldn't teach them what the Warthog's roar could. A retired Air Force major, standing a few feet away, did a double-take. Something about Grayson's profile, the way he tracked the A-10 with a technician's eye, stirred a memory. "Excuse me, sir," he ventured, stepping closer. "Are you?" Grayson shook his head, voice low. "Just an old man enjoying the show." The major frowned, unconvinced, and tapped his phone, pulling up a grainy photo from a Desert Storm briefing. His eyes widened. He typed furiously, glancing back at Grayson, who remained fixed on the sky. Nearby, a photographer weaving through the crowd paused, his lens catching the faded patch on Grayson's jacket. A rare insignia of the A-10's original design team, a unit shrouded in secrecy. The photographer's breath caught. He zoomed in, snapped a shot, and sent a message to the airshow's media team. The jacket, frayed but defiant, was starting to unravel its truth. The announcer's voice surged, "The A-10's U-8 Avenger can shred a tank in seconds." Grayson's thumb brushed a challenge coin in his pocket, its edges worn smooth from decades of touch. It bore an A-10 diving into attack, a gift from the first squadron to fly it in combat. He didn't need to look at it. Its weight was his tether to a life of purpose. The crowd jostled, bumping his cane, nearly toppling him. "Hey, Gramps, bleachers are that way," a man in his 40s called, pushing past. The teenagers laughed, one mimicking Grayson's intense stare to jeers of delight. Grayson steadied himself against the railing, his face a mask of calm. He'd faced worse. Nights over Iraq, skies ablaze with tracers, each one hunting his cockpit. A few careless words were nothing, but the sting lingered, not for his pride, but for the forgotten engineers and pilots whose work lived in the Warthog's roar, unrecognized by those it had saved. Then it happened, a moment that cracked the day open. The A-10, mid-demonstration, banked hard left, breaking its choreographed path. The crowd's cheers faltered, replaced by murmurs. The announcer's voice wavered, "Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't part of the plan." Radio chatter spilled over the speakers, urgent. "Warthog 1, confirm return to pattern." No reply. The aircraft slowed, dipping low, its nose tilting as if searching the sea of faces. Grayson's chest tightened, not from old wounds but from a dawning truth. The pilot, Captain Daniel Hawk Grayson, his grandson, had found him. How? Samuel hadn't told a soul he'd be here, craving one last anonymous day with the plane that defined him. Yet the photographer's message, relayed to the flight line, had reached Daniel's cockpit. The A-10 hovered above, then executed 3 perfect wing dips, left, right, level. A missing man salute, rare outside memorials, a pilot's highest honor. The airfield fell silent, 50,000 breaths held as realization swept through. The announcer, voice thick, said, "Captain Grayson is performing a missing man tribute. This is unprecedented." Military officials moved swiftly toward Samuel, who stood ramrod straight, cane forgotten. A general, stars gleaming on his uniform, parted the crowd and studied Samuel's face. Then he saluted, crisp and formal. "Colonel Grayson," he said, loud enough for nearby ears. "An honor, sir." The teenagers froze, their smirks vanishing. The girl, Lily, clutched her father's hand, whispering, "Is he important?" The jacket, once mocked, now glowed with meaning, its patches a map of a hero's life. The announcer's voice broke the hush, trembling with awe. "We've just learned that among us is Colonel Samuel Iron Grayson, original test pilot and architect of the A-10 Thunderbolt II U-8 system." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Faces turned, eyes wide, to the unassuming man who'd stood quietly among them. He reshaped combat tactics in Desert Storm, saving countless lives. And yes, that's his grandson, Captain Daniel Grayson, piloting above. Giant screens flickered, showing split images. A young Samuel beside a prototype A-10, flight helmet tucked under his arm, and the Warthog now circling overhead. The resemblance between grandfather and grandson was striking, a thread of legacy stitched through time. The general lowered his salute and offered a handshake. "Your grandson's got some explaining to do for breaking protocol," he said, a smile softening his words. Samuel's voice, stronger now, carried a wry warmth. "He's always been stubborn, takes after his grandmother." The crowd hung on every word, the teenagers now Googling Samuel's name, their faces pale as search results revealed his storied career. Lily's father approached, hesitant. "Sir, my daughter's curious about your drawings. Would you mind?" Samuel knelt, joints protesting, and opened his notebook. "See this?" he told Lily, pointing to a U-8 sketch. "We had to angle it just right, or the recoil would have spun the plane like a top." Her eyes shone, drinking in his words. The jacket, draped over his shoulders, seemed to hum with pride. As the A-10 resumed its demonstration, its maneuvers sharper now, as if fueled by the moment, a group of Gulf War veterans pushed toward the barrier. Their desert-faded patches marked them as survivors of the highway of death. Security hesitated, but the general waved them through. Their leader, Sergeant Major Thomas Reed, stepped forward, voice thick. "Colonel Grayson, I was with the 3rd Infantry in 91. Pinned down, smoke so thick we couldn't see the enemy. We called for air support, but they said no plane could fly in that mess." He paused, eyes wet. "Then we heard it, the Warthog's roar. Your A-10s came in low, took hits, but kept firing. Every man in my unit came home because of you." Reed held out a sandy patch sewn after that battle. "We've carried this for 30 years. Hoping to thank you." Samuel took it, fingers trembling, the jacket's weight now matched by this token of lives saved. "The honor's mine," he said softly. The crowd watched, some weeping, as veterans shared their stories. One limping from shrapnel, another whose son now flew F-16s. All because the A-10 and Samuel's tactics had held the line. The teenagers stood silent, lessons in respect sinking deep. Lily clutched her father's hand, whispering, "He's a hero." The jacket, heavy with their gratitude, stood as a beacon, its frayed threads weaving a tapestry of sacrifice and redemption. The A-10 Thunderbolt II carved through the sky, its silhouette a blunt testament to purpose over polish. The crowds all lingered, their eyes darting between the aircraft and Colonel Samuel Iron Grayson, now the center of a swelling tide of respect. The threadbare jacket, once a target of scorn, hung on his shoulders like a banner, its faded patches glowing with newfound reverence. Samuel stood tall, cane forgotten, as the Warthog's roar faded into a low rumble, signaling its descent. His heart pounded, not from the old shrapnel scars beneath his jacket, but from the weight of what was coming. Captain Daniel Hawk Grayson, his grandson, was bringing the A-10 to him, a deviation from protocol that electrified the airfield. The announcer's voice, thick with emotion, cut through the hush. Ladies and gentlemen, in a historic break from tradition, Captain Grayson is taxiing the A-10 to the viewing area for his grandfather. The aircraft rolled closer, its engines growling like a living beast, the U-8 Avenger's barrel glinting in the sun. Dust swirled, stinging eyes, as ground crew scrambled with a ladder and wool chocks. The crowd held its breath, a collective pulse binding 50,000 souls. Samuel's gaze locked on the cockpit, where Daniel's helmeted figure moved with practiced precision. The canopy slid open, and Daniel emerged, peeling off his helmet to reveal a face that mirrored Samuel's own from decades past. Same sharp jaw, same fire in the eyes. For a moment, time collapsed. 40 years of aviation history hung in the air, stitched together by the jacket Samuel wore and the Warthog they both loved. Daniel descended the ladder, strode across the tarmac, and snapped to attention. "Colonel Grayson, sir. Request permission to report mission completion." Samuel returned the salute, crisp as ever. "Permission granted, Captain." Then, protocol shattered, he pulled Daniel into a fierce embrace, the jacket's worn fabric pressed between them. The crowd erupted, applause rolling like thunder, tears glinting on weathered cheeks. Cameras swarmed, capturing the reunion. A grandfather and grandson bound by the A-10's legacy. "I couldn't believe you were here," Daniel said, voice raw as they parted. "Why didn't you tell me?" Samuel's smile was wry, eyes crinkling. "Wanted a quiet day with my old bird. Guess you had other plans." The general approached, his stars catching the light. "Colonel, Captain, that was a moment for the ages. Colonel Grayson, would you address the crowd?" Samuel hesitated, public words never his strength. But Daniel's hand on his shoulder steadied him. "I'll keep it short," he said, stepping toward a microphone rigged near the barrier. The jacket, heavy with memory, seemed to urge him forward, its threads a lifeline to his past. Samuel faced the sea of faces, their silence a canvas for his voice. "Thank you," he began, words clear despite the tremor in his hands. "I'm no speaker. Always let my planes talk for me." A ripple of laughter eased the tension. "What you saw today wasn't my doing. My grandson's got a flair for surprises." He glanced at Daniel, pride softening his weathered face. "But I'm grateful to say a word about the A-10 Thunderbolt II. We built it for one reason, to protect our troops on the ground. Every bolt, every weld, every test flight was for them. Not for glory, not for speed, but to bring hope when all seemed lost." His voice grew stronger, the jacket's weight a reminder of the engineers and pilots who'd shared his mission. Many gave their all to make this plane real. Most never got a salute. The Warthog is their legacy, too. The crowd hung on every word, veterans nodding, children wide-eyed, the teenagers now silent, phones forgotten. Samuel's words echoed, stirring hearts across the airfield. He gestured to Daniel. "Now, a new generation carries that promise forward, proving the best tools aren't always the shiniest, just the ones that work when lives are on the line." Applause swelled, a standing ovation that shook the ground. Samuel stepped back, awkward under the adulation, until Daniel whispered something that drew a rare chuckle. The general returned, flanked by air show officials. "Colonel, we'd like you to meet Captain Grayson at the aircraft. And the base commander hopes you'll say a few more words later." Samuel nodded, though his eyes drifted to Lily, the girl who'd asked about his sketches. She stood nearby, clutching her father's hand, her face alight with questions. The jacket, its patches catching her eye, seemed to beckon her closer, a bridge between past and future. As Samuel moved toward a waiting golf cart, the crowd parted, veterans saluting, parents lifting children to see. The teenagers, chastened, watched in silence, their earlier mockery a bitter lesson. Lily broke free, darting forward with her father trailing. "Sir, you dropped this." She held out Samuel's notebook, its pages fluttering. He took it gently, kneeling despite his stiff joints. "These are the Warthog's secrets," he told her, opening to a U-8 diagram. "See this angle? We set it 0.8 degrees off to keep the plane steady when the cannon fired. Lily's eyes sparkled. Did you draw it yourself? I did, Samuel said. But smarter folks than me made it real. A plane's never just one man's work. Her father, voice soft, said, She wants to be an engineer. Samuel smiled. Then you'll build something even better than this old bird. The jacket, draped over his shoulders, seemed to nod in approval, its threads weaving a new dream. The cart rolled toward the taxiway, where the A-10 waited, its engine silent but still warm. Samuel's mind drifted to the prototype's first flight, how the controls had bucked, the cannon's recoil a beast they'd tamed together. The general helped him stand as Daniel's aircraft stopped precisely before them. Ground crew saluted, their movements sharp with respect. Daniel climbed down, helmet under his arm, and the two men faced each other across the tarmac. The jacket, faded but proud, marked Samuel as the Warthog's father. Daniel, its heir. Ready to see her up close? Daniel asked, a grin breaking through his formal demeanor. Samuel nodded, the ache in his bones fading under the pull of memory. The crowd, kept back by security, watched in reverence, sensing history unfolding. The base commander approached, his voice low but urgent. Colonel, we've got a proposal. We'd like you to join Captain Grayson in the two-seat A-10 trainer for a heritage flight. You'd be a passenger, of course, but it'd be a tribute to your work. Samuel's eyes widened, surprise flickering across his weathered face. Fly again, he murmured, glancing at Daniel, whose excitement was barely contained. I hadn't planned on it, Samuel said slowly. But some plans are worth breaking. A cheer erupted from the crowd, who'd overheard, the idea of the old test pilot airborne again sparking wildfire enthusiasm. Medics rushed to clear him, a flight suit was found, and Daniel helped Samuel into it, securing straps with care. Used to be me buckling you in, Samuel teased, the jacket now folded respectfully nearby. You were always impatient, Daniel shot back, laughing. Said the sky was waiting. Samuel's reply was soft, almost sacred. The sky's always waiting. That's its magic. Dressed in flight gear, he transformed, an aviator reborn, the years peeling away. The two-seat A-10 gleamed on the tarmac, canopy open, ground crew saluting as Samuel climbed in, slower but unaided. Daniel took the front seat, checking systems with fluid precision. The canopy sealed, engines spooled up, and the Warthog's rumble washed over the airfield like a heartbeat. The announcer's voice soared, Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing history. Colonel Samuel Iron Grayson, who birthed the A-10, is taking flight with his grandson, Captain Daniel Grayson, in a tribute to the Warthog's legacy. The aircraft taxied to the runway, pausing as Daniel's voice crackled over the speakers. Warthog 27. Requesting heritage flight with distinguished passenger. Cleared for takeoff, the tower replied. The sky's yours. The A-10 surged forward, lifting into the blue with a grace that belied its bulk. Inside, Samuel felt the old thrill, vibrations singing through his bones, the earth shrinking below. The jacket, left behind on the tarmac, had passed its torch. Now the Warthog itself carried his story. How's she feel, Grandpa? Daniel asked through the intercom. Like home, Samuel said, voice steady despite the lump in his throat. The crowd below watched, awestruck, as the A-10 danced through gentle maneuvers, Daniel's skill a mirror of Samuel's long-ago flights. Then, unexpectedly, Samuel's voice broke over the public address, patched through by a quick-thinking technician. I've been blessed twice, he said, words clear against the engine's hum, to help create a plane that saved lives, and to see my grandson fly it with a heart as true as any I've known. Tears streaked faces below, the jacket's legacy now soaring for all to see. As the A-10 made its final pass, dipping its wings in salute, the crowd roared, a tide of gratitude washing over the airfield. The aircraft landed smoothly, taxiing back to the viewing area. Samuel emerged, standing tall on the ladder, helmet off, his face alight with the sky's embrace. Veterans surged forward, eager to share their stories. But Lily beat them, her small voice cutting through. "Was it amazing?" she asked, eyes wide. Samuel knelt, grinning. "Beyond amazing. Someday you'll build a plane that changes everything." She nodded, clutching a sketch she'd started. A crude A-10, but brimming with promise. The jacket, now back on Samuel's shoulders, seemed to bless her dream, its threads a bridge to tomorrow. The teenagers approached, heads bowed. "Sir," one stammered, "we're sorry. We didn't know who you were." Samuel's gaze was kind but firm. "You never know who's standing beside you, or what they've done. Treat everyone like they've got a story worth hearing." They nodded, chastened, one whispering, "I want to learn about planes now." The veterans, led by Sergeant Major Reed, shared more. Tales of A-10s diving through sandstorms. Their Ju-8's a lifeline. One, limping from old wounds, gripped Samuel's hand. "I walked my daughter down the aisle because of your plane." Another, quieter, said, "My son flies now because you got me home." The jacket, heavy with their gratitude, stood as a monument to lives saved, its frayed edges a testament to enduring purpose. The airfield pulsed with a reverent hush as Colonel Samuel Iron Grayson stood beside the A-10 Thunderbolt II, its engines now silent, its bulk a monument to his life's work. The threadbare jacket, draped over his shoulders, caught the fading sunlight, its patches, once mocked, now a badge of honor that drew every eye. Veterans, their faces carved by war and time, pressed closer, their stories spilling like offerings. Sergeant Major Thomas Reed, his sandy patch still warm in Samuel's hand, spoke again, voice cracking. "Colonel, your tactics in Desert Storm, low passes, tight formations, turned the tide. We were trapped, outgunned. But the Warthog's roar meant we'd see our families again." Samuel listened, eyes steady, the jacket's weight anchoring him to their shared past. Each word was a stitch, mending the years he'd spent unseen. A veteran with a limp, his cane a mirror of Samuel's, stepped forward. "Name's Carter, sir. Took shrapnel in both legs on the highway of death. Doc said I'd never walk. But last month, I danced with my daughter at her wedding." His grip on Samuel's hand was fierce, tears cutting tracks through dust. "Your A-10 made that possible." Another, quieter, his voice barely above the breeze, said, "My boy's an F-16 pilot now. He's here because your plane got me home." Samuel's throat tightened, the jacket's faded green a canvas for their gratitude. He asked each man about their lives, families, jobs, dreams reborn after war. His memory, sharp as ever, recalled radio calls from that campaign, details that had shaped the A-10's playbook. The crowd watched, some recording, others weeping, as history breathed before them. Lily, the girl with the curious eyes, lingered nearby, her crude A-10 sketch clutched tight. Her father, now awed, nodded permission, and she approached. "Sir, why's the Warthog's gun so loud?" Samuel knelt, joints creaking, and opened his notebook. "The Ju-8 Avenger has 7 barrels, spinning fast," he explained, tracing a diagram. "Each shot's like a thunderclap, telling soldiers help's here." Lily mimicked the sound, BRRT, her giggle a spark in the heavy air. "I'm gonna draw louder planes," she declared. Samuel's smile was warm, the jacket's patches seeming to glow for her. "You'll make them unstoppable," he said, planting a seed for the future. The teenagers, Jake among them, hovered at the edge, one scribbling notes, another searching A-10 engineer on his phone. Their shame had turned to hunger, a lesson sown by the jacket's quiet truth. The general returned, his presence parting the crowd. "Colonel, the base commander's got a maintenance hangar ready. The crew's eager to show you how they keep the Warthog flying." Samuel nodded, energy surging despite his years. "I'd like to see that," he said, glancing at Captain Daniel Hawk Grayson, who matched his stride. The jacket, heavy with memory, seemed to lighten as they moved, its threads pulling them toward the A-10's beating heart. Behind them, the teenagers approached Reed, voices low. "Sir, can you tell us what it was like? What the Warthog really meant?" Reed's eyes softened. Grab a seat, kids. This is a story you'll carry. As Samuel disappeared into the hangar, his legacy rippled outward, the jacket's story touching lives he'd never know. The hangar smelled of oil and metal, a cathedral of grit where the A-10 stood like a warrior at rest. Wrenches clinked, voices echoed, and the Warthog's scarred hide gleamed under fluorescent lights. Samuel's steps slowed, the jacket's weight grounding him as memories flooded back. Late nights in hangars like this, arguing over recoil ratios, sketching fixes on napkins. The crew, young airmen with grease-stained hands, snapped to attention, their eyes wide with awe. "Colonel Grayson," the lead mechanic said, voice tight. "It's an honor. This bird's still saving lives because of you." Samuel waved off the formality, his smile easy. "Show me how you keep her flying," he said. The jacket's patches a silent nod to their shared mission. Daniel stood close, watching his grandfather slip into his element. The crew walked Samuel through the A-10's guts. Hydraulic lines doubled for redundancy, titanium bathtub polished to a sheen. Samuel's fingers brushed the Gu-8's barrel, its cold steel a link to the past. "We had to offset this 0.8 degrees, he murmured almost to himself. "Recoil was a beast." The crew nodded, hanging on every word, one jotting notes. A young airman, barely 20, asked, "Sir, how'd you know it'd work in combat?" Samuel's eyes drifted, seeing deserts lit by tracer fire. "We didn't. Not till we flew it. But we built it for the troops, so it had to." The jacket, draped over his frame, seemed to hum with the truth of those early risks. Outside, the air show continued, jets screaming overhead, but the hangar was a world apart. Daniel shared a story of his own, a recent mission where the A-10's loiter time saved a pin-down squad. "Your design, Grandpa," he said, voice low. "Still doing what you meant it to." Samuel's hand rested on Daniel's shoulder, the jacket's fabric brushing his flight suit, a thread of pride binding them. The crew showed Samuel a worn notebook, its pages marked with his old sketches, still used for training. "You're in our blood," the mechanic said. Samuel's chest swelled, the jacket's weight now a mantle of purpose, its frayed edges a testament to enduring impact. As Samuel and Daniel emerged from the hangar, the airfield buzzed with a new energy. Social media exploded. Clips of the missing man tribute, Samuel's speech, the heritage flight, spreading across the globe. News crews swarmed, their cameras trained on the unassuming colonel in his threadbare jacket. A documentary team approached, respectful but urgent. "Colonel Grayson, we'd like to record your story today and the A-10's beginnings. So much was classified. It's time the world knows." Samuel hesitated, never one for the spotlight, but Daniel's nod urged him on. "For the team," Samuel said, agreeing. Seated with Daniel beside him, the jacket folded nearby, he began. He spoke of the A-10's birth, skeptics who called it too slow, too ugly, budget cuts that nearly killed it. "We fought for it," he said, voice steady, "because troops needed a plane that could stay, take hits, and hit back." He described the Gu-8's first test, its recoil shaking the prototype so hard they feared it'd stall. "We offset the barrel, recalculated every angle," he said, hands tracing invisible lines. "And the titanium bathtub, we built it to bring pilots home." His words, simple but profound, painted a picture of relentless purpose. The crew listened, some tearing up, as Samuel honored the unsung. Engineers who solved impossible math, mechanics who made theory real, pilots who tested limits. The jacket, resting on a chair, seemed to listen, its patches a roll call of those forgotten heroes. The interview stretched into the evening, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the tarmac. Samuel's daughter, Daniel's mother, arrived, her face a mix of pride and exasperation. "Dad, why didn't you tell us you were coming?" she asked, embracing him. "Wanted a quiet day," Samuel said, chuckling. "Didn't quite work out." The family gathered, 3 generations framed against the A-10 silhouette, the jacket a quiet star in their photos. Veterans kept coming, each with a story. One, his voice rough, said, "I was a kid in '91, watching Warthogs save my dad's unit. Now I'm here, thanking you." Samuel clasped his hand, the jacket's weight a reminder of why he'd fought for the plane. Lily's father returned, shy but determined. "She's drawing planes nonstop now," he said. "You lit something in her." Samuel's smile was soft, the jacket's threads weaving a new legacy. The teenagers, led by Jake, approached one last time. Their leader spoke, voice shaky. "Sir, we were idiots earlier. We're sorry. Can you tell us what it was like flying the A-10 first?" Samuel regarded them, his gaze kind but piercing. "It was like a storm," he said. "The cannon shook everything, but we knew it'd save lives. Every test flight was for the troops." Jake nodded, scribbling in a notebook. "I'm applying to the Air Force Academy," he said. "Because of you." Samuel's hand rested on his shoulder, the jacket's fabric brushing him. "Learn from everyone," he said. "The mechanic, the radar tech, they're the real backbone." The boys nodded, their arrogance gone, replaced by a hunger to understand. The jacket, once a joke, now stood as a lesson in humility. The base commander returned, his tone formal but warm. "Colonel, we'd like you to speak at the Air Force Academy next month. Your story's too big to stay here." Samuel hesitated, then nodded. "For the team," he said again. The jacket's weight a reminder of those who'd never speak for themselves. As the crowd thinned, Lily ran up, thrusting her sketch into Samuel's hands. "For you," she said, her A-10 crude but fierce. Samuel took it, eyes misting. "This'll fly someday," he told her, tucking it into his notebook. The jacket, its patches catching the last light, seemed to salute her courage. Daniel walked beside him as they left the airfield, carrying the cane Samuel hadn't needed since the flight. The A-10 stood behind, its shadow long, a testament to a promise kept. The airfield's golden light softened as the sun dipped low, casting the A-10 Thunderbolt II's silhouette in sharp relief against the horizon. Colonel Samuel Iron Grayson stood with his grandson, Captain Daniel Hawk Grayson, the threadbare jacket a quiet testament to a life of purpose. Its faded patches, once mocked, drew reverent glances from the thinning crowd. Veterans, families, and air show staff who lingered, unwilling to let the moment fade. The jacket's threads, worn thin by time, wove together the day's revelations. A man dismissed as frail, revealed as a hero, now stood as a bridge between the Warthog's past and its future. Samuel's eyes traced the A-10's blunt nose, its G8 Avenger gleaming like a vow kept. The stories of veterans, the spark in Lily's eyes, and Daniel's salute still hummed in his chest, a rhythm as steady as the aircraft's roar. A news crew approached, their camera a soft intrusion. "Colonel Grayson, your story's gone viral," the reporter said, voice hushed with respect. "Millions are watching. Will you share more about the A-10's creation?" Samuel glanced at Daniel, who nodded encouragement, then at the jacket, its weight urging him to speak for those who couldn't. "I'll do it for the team," he said, settling into a chair, the hangar's oil-scented air grounding him. The interview unfolded like a map of his life. Sketches scrawled in smoky rooms, test flights that shook his bones, and battles with brass who called the Warthog a relic before it ever flew. "We built it for the ground troops," he said, voice clear. "Every rivet, every angle, was to bring them home." He spoke of the GU-8's recoil, a force that nearly tore the prototype apart, and the titanium bathtub that cradled pilots through hell. The jacket, folded beside him, seemed to nod, its patches a roll call of the engineers and flyers who'd made it real. The crew listened, rapt, as Samuel honored his comrades. Folks like Eddie Monroe, who solved the cannon's alignment, or Sarah Tate, who redesigned the hydraulics, they're the Warthog's heart. Most never got a parade. His words, simple but heavy, painted a world of quiet sacrifice. Daniel, standing nearby, heard stories he'd only known in fragments, his pride a mirror of the crowd's. A young airman, wiping grease from her hands, asked, "Sir, did you ever doubt it'd work?" Samuel's smile was wry. "Every day, but doubt's what sharpens you." We flew anyway, the jacket's frayed cuffs, brushing his wrists as he gestured, carried the weight of those risks. The interview ended with a promise to air it globally, ensuring the A-10's unsung heroes would finally be seen. As the crew packed up, a group of air show volunteers approached, their faces alight. "Colonel, we've set up a display in the main tent, your notebook sketches, photos from the program. People are lining up to see it." Samuel's brows lifted, surprise softening his weathered face. "Those old doodles?" he chuckled, but Daniel's grin urged him on. They walked to the tent, the jacket drawing eyes like a beacon. Inside, glass cases held his drawings, GU-8 angles, cockpit layouts, beside faded photos of a young Samuel, helmet in hand, beside the prototype. Visitors whispered, some saluting, others taking photos. Lily was there, her sketch now pinned beside his, a child's dream next to a legend's. "Yours is better," Samuel told her, winking. She beamed, the jacket's presence a blessing on her future. The teenagers, Jake among them, studied the display, their phones now tools for learning, not mockery. "This is unreal," Jake muttered, respect replacing arrogance. The jacket, its patches catching the tent's soft light, stitched their transformation into the day's tapestry. A month later, Samuel stood at the Air Force Academy, his cane left behind, the jacket draped over his shoulders like a mantle. The auditorium brimmed with cadets, their eyes bright with ambition, their futures unwritten. The base commander's invitation had been clear: share your story, inspire the next generation. Samuel's voice, steady despite the years, filled the hall. "Your aircraft isn't just metal," he began, the jacket's weight grounding his words. "It's a promise to the troops who need you, to the comrades who built it. The A-10 was never about glory. It was about showing up when hope was gone." He spoke of the Warthog's birth, skeptics who scoffed, budgets that bled, and test flights where the GU-8's roar felt like judgment. "We kept going," he said, "because soldiers on the ground couldn't wait." The cadets leaned forward, some jotting notes, others lost in his words. Samuel shared a memory of his first combat mission, the sky over Iraq ablaze with tracers, the A-10 taking hits but holding firm. "That titanium bathtub saved me," he said, hand brushing the jacket's scarred patch. "But the real save was for the troops below, who went home because we stayed." He paused, eyes scanning the young faces. "You'll fly faster planes, shinier ones, but never forget why you're up there. It's not for medals. It's for them." The jacket, its threads worn but unbroken, seemed to amplify his message, a symbol of service over self. A cadet raised her hand. "Sir, how do you face fear?" Samuel's smile was soft. "You don't. You fly through it, for the ones counting on you." Applause erupted, thunderous, as the jacket stood witness to a new generation's awakening. Outside, Daniel waited, his flight suit a nod to Samuel's past. "You reached them, Grandpa," he said, voice thick. Samuel nodded, the jacket's weight lighter now, its mission shared. They walked to a display of an A-10, cadets trailing, asking questions. One, a girl with Lily's spark, asked, "Did you ever think it'd last this long?" Samuel's hand rested on the Warthog's nose. "No, but we built it to endure, like the troops it protects." The jacket, brushing the aircraft's skin, sealed the bond, its threads a vow that the Warthog's purpose would live on. The cadets dispersed, inspired, their futures now tied to the jacket's quiet legacy. Back at the air show's aftermath, Samuel's story had reshaped the world's view. Social media buzzed with hashtags, #IronGrayson, #WarthogLegacy, spreading clips of the heritage flight, the veterans' tears, Lily's sketch. Veterans from Iraq to Afghanistan shared their own A-10 stories. A squad saved in a sandstorm, a convoy spared by the GU-8's fury. That sound meant life. One posted, echoing Reed's words. Aviation forums debated the Warthog's design, newfound respect for its engineering replacing old jabs about its looks. The jacket, captured in every viral image, became a symbol of quiet heroism, its frayed edges a reminder to look closer at those we pass by. Schools invited Samuel to speak, children sending letters with crayon A-10s, each thanking Mr. Grayson for saving soldiers. One, from Lily, included a sketch of a plane with her name, its cannon extra loud. Samuel pinned it to his wall, the jacket hanging nearby, its patches a gallery of purpose. Families of his old team reached out, sharing stories of their loved ones' pride in those A-10s. The media ran features, calling him the soul of the Warthog, but Samuel deflected, saying, "It's all about the team, the jacket, its presence enough to prove it was true." The teenagers, led by Jake, started a blog, Warthog Stories, collecting veteran tales and A-10 facts. "We were wrong about him," Jake wrote in the first post. "Heroes don't always shout. They build, they fly, they save." Their site grew, a digital echo of the jacket's lesson. Respect the unseen. At a veterans' hall, Reed organized a screening of Samuel's interview, the room packed with soldiers who'd heard the Warthog's BRRT in their darkest hours. "Grayson gave us more than a plane," Reed said, voice rough. "He gave us a chance to come home." Samuel, watching the broadcast at his home, felt the weight of their gratitude. His jacket a quiet monument, its mission complete. As weeks passed, Samuel's life settled, but the ripples continued. He visited the hangar again, the crew now friends, their banter easing his old wounds. "You're one of us," the lead mechanic said, handing him a wrench. Samuel laughed, the jacket's patches catching light as a badge of honor. Daniel flew missions, each takeoff a nod to his grandfather, the A-10's roar carrying their bond. Lily's school started an aviation club, her sketches its logo, the jacket's spirit in every line. The teenagers' blog won an award, Jake mentoring younger kids, teaching them to see beyond appearances. Samuel looked at each, their stories reflecting a new generation's commitment to honor and respect. The jacket, hung in his study, watched over these changes, its frayed edges a quiet hymn to resilience. One evening, Samuel sat with a mug, the A-10 manual open between them. "You made it mean something," he said, tracing a diagram Samuel had drawn decades ago. "It always did," Samuel replied, hand on the jacket. He'd thought of old comrades, Monroe's late-night math, Tate's stubborn fixes, and troops he'd never meet, whose lives the Warthog touched. The jacket, its threads worn but strong, held their stories, a symbol of purpose that outlasted time. Samuel looked out at the stars, the sky still waiting, and knew the Warthog's legacy. His legacy would fly on, carried by those who understood its heart. The sun had long set over the airfield, but the A-10's shadow lingered in Colonel Samuel's heart, its roar a quiet reminder under the stars. His threadbare jacket, now hung in his study, held the day's weight. Mockery turned to reverence, a grandson's proud salute, and veterans' tears stitched into its frayed patches. This was no mere air show tale. It's a mirror to the unsung heroes who walk among us, their stories hidden beneath worn fabric and weathered faces. Samuel's journey, from a dismissed Gramps to a living legend, reveals a truth as enduring as the Warthog itself. True valor doesn't shout. It builds, protects, and endures. The jacket, once a joke, became a beacon, urging us to look closer, to honor the quiet courage that shapes our world. This story resonates because it speaks to universal hopes, redemption, respect, the power of legacy. Samuel's humility, facing silence with grace, mirrors the resilience of countless veterans, teachers, and dreamers who labor without applause. His bond with Daniel, sealed in the sky, reminds us that purpose can span generations, while Lily's sketches and Jake's blog show how one spark can ignite futures. The Warthog, like Samuel, was never flashy, yet its Ju-8 Avenger saved lives because it was built with heart. This is our lesson: to see beyond appearances, to value the mechanic's wrench, the engineer's math, the soldier's grit. In a world quick to judge, Samuel's jacket calls us to pause, to listen, to cherish the stories we might otherwise miss. Daily narrated stories brought this tale to life, shining a light on those who shape history in the shadows. We're here to uncover more tales of courage, sacrifice, and hope that remind us what it means to be human. Join us in this mission. Comment legacy to honor the quiet heroes in your life. Veterans, mentors, or neighbors whose unseen acts make the world brighter. Share their stories below. Who deserves their moment of recognition? What did they teach you? Subscribe to daily narrated stories, and let's keep these voices alive, weaving a tapestry of respect and gratitude that stretches beyond the horizon. As Samuel looked at the jacket, its patches glowing in the lamplight, he saw not just his life but a promise kept, to protect, to inspire, to endure. We all carry such threads, fragile yet unbreakable, binding us to those we love and the values we hold dear. Let's wear them proudly, seeking the heroes among us, ensuring their legacies soar like the Warthog, forever fierce, forever true.